truth,
love,
and the good.
Here we go.
Welcome to the DTPHD Podcast. My name is David Tian, and I will be your host. This is an unusual one. We're filming this and recording this in Phuket on the top of a mountain, on a cliff overlooking the sea, and in a gorgeous villa that's got 3 houses. There's a separate house that I'm in right now for the dining room, living room, very spacious. And then there's a separate bedroom with a double bathroom and a gorgeous infinity pool. That's not in the bedroom, that's on the outside. That jets out over the side of the villa that overlooks the sea, and then there's a separate kitchen. Very, very pleasant. Right now I'm taking the opportunity to record this in the morning before we head to breakfast, which is another amazing place, the restaurant there, overlooking the sea on a cliff. So the whole thing's beautiful. And as usual, I put off the recordings until the last minute, the last day. This is our last day here, so we're going to be taking off. So here we go. Today's podcast is about a very important, very useful analogy, metaphor, simile, which is that you are like a hotel. When it comes to dating and mating, it's really helpful to think of yourself in terms of hotels. And that may be surprising, but I think the analogy is really helpful, so I'll get into it. I've been living in hotel suites for almost 4 years, I think over 4 years now, and really loving it, taking advantage of the various loyalty plans and all the free upgrades to suites and so on. I explain how to do that in my Lifestyle Mastery course, but that's not the point of this podcast. But that's what is the context, as opposed to the background of what got me thinking about the hotel, you as a hotel, when it comes to dating, mating, relationships. So a lot of guys, because I've worked with a lot of guys, mostly, 90% of my clients and students are guys, but this applies just as equally well to women. But I'll keep referring to guys because that's the one I know best. So most guys think of dating and mating in terms of marketing and like in terms of the sales and marketing and advertising campaigns for the product. So if they're the product, which they are, if they're the product, then they're focusing mostly on the marketing and sales versus the actual product. And if you think about it in terms of a hotel, they're like a really glossy marketing and advertising campaign versus the actual hotel product. How do I know this? Well, we've tested over the many years lots of different SEO, clicks, ads on Facebook and YouTube and mostly Facebook and other, there are other venues, but mostly we know Facebook quite granularly, and the targeting on Facebook is quite good. So across the board, across all demographics, guys will click a lot more on a clickbaity title like the top 3 hacks for getting any woman into bed, or 3 things to say to get in conversation, 3 things to say to get any woman hooked on you, or something like that. And by the way, the same applies to women. I've done a little research on the women's dating coach side, and it's the same clickbaity thing. It's a human thing to want things fast and easy and to get the effortless route. So that's a lot like a hotel that doesn't want to undertake the expensive and, I guess, more time-consuming repairs or renovations, and would prefer to put their money into coming up with some idea and printing out lots of glossy advertisements that try to market their hotel rather than actually improving the hotel itself. And that's how most people approach dating and mating. They're more focused on the marketing campaign. What should I write on my Tinder profile? What photo should I put on my Tinder profile? How should I come across on that first date? That's sort of like a marketing campaign, like a multi-step campaign, instead of like letting the product speak for itself. So if you have a great product, if you have a great hotel or resort, you don't have to do any marketing or advertising. It'll just spread by word of mouth. You'll get great reviews, then the press will pick you up, and that'll spread the message more. But a lot of great properties have very minimal marketing and advertising, or if they do market and advertise, they're in very limited places. They're very targeted, specialized venues or platforms. So marketing and advertising is like one way to get people to the hotel. And instead of just focusing so much on that, if you were a hotelier, you'd be better off focusing on the product itself, because So let's just cut to the end of the analogy. So imagine you go to a hotel that has a great marketing campaign. That's what sucked you in. Maybe there was like a Groupon deal or something, right? So the hotel's even attracted the wrong type of customer, the type of customer who won't be coming back because they don't see the value in the price. But if you offered at 10% of the normal rack rate or the standard rate, they'll go, right? So let's say somebody suckers you in to going to this hotel. And the facade of the hotel, the exterior is falling apart, right? It's not that pretty. And that's like somebody who hasn't taken care of their exterior, right? Their fashion and fitness is and their body language and their eye contact. Like the first impressions of the place are bad. Now, obviously, you should get the first impressions right. So that's the second place that most people go. First, they look into the hacks and the tricks and the cheats to get people to the date, like to get or the opening lines or the pickup lines or what kind of thing can I say to this girl that'll make her get her attention. So sort of like in the movie Hitch way back in the day, Will Smith, basically all you saw was his openers, right? Like that's what it made the beginning of the movie. That was a jaw-dropping moment when there was like 10 dudes surrounding these two women, and he went in there with like some kind of line about that he was ordering a drink and pretending she was a waitress, and then she follows him out, and then he delivers a line. That's like, whoa! And that's sort of like a marketing campaign, right? So most people put their thought and their effort into improving their marketing campaigns, but then they don't improve the product. So imagine then you get to the hotel and the outside sucks, but imagine it's okay, because then the second step, like I was saying, was fashion, fitness, body language, eye contact, tonality. By the way, I think I will be doing another series of videos on those things. There are seven factors that make or break a man and a woman, actually, for whether they're sexually attractive. And there's 5 of them, right? Body language, eye contact, tonality, fashion, and fitness. And if you get all 5 of those down, well, then you get the person inside the door, right? So they get to the front of the hotel's beautiful, the exterior is gorgeous, the exterior service is good, the bellboy, the greeter at the door, and all that, they're wonderful, and you get inside. And then it's another step, like getting inside and checking in, going to the check-in counter, the lobby. That's sort of like your first date and how that goes. The first 3 or 4 hours that you know each other, that's sort of like that first entrance, the first floor, the lobby, checking in, and that experience. But then, like, if they can keep the facade going the whole way, like the charade, if they can keep that going the whole way, like get you suckered in with some fancy marketing, and then you get there and it looks good on the outside, sort of like a Hollywood set, right? Like it looks great on the outside. Then you go inside, they can keep faking you through to the check-in counter, and that's sort of like you're really good at faking your way through that first date. You learn some conversation skills, you learn a few questions to ask on the first date that'll open things up, and so you're running a first date script, right? And so I know that there are such things, because I used to teach those things, and there's many of them on the internet. So you have a first date script that you run through. Here are these questions, here's the funny, witty banter, here are the things you're going to throw in there to sexualize the conversation, get things moving in the right direction. Or if you're more of a female, because female's generally more of a female, if you're a female, or if you're a dude who's just got higher standards, you're gonna be more choosy, so you'll get her to work for you through selection. So part of you is going to be wondering, do I really want to see this person again, and so on, and that's already on the right step, right? That's like a solid lobby and check-in experience, right? It's not like a fake one, but then you get upstairs, you get to your room, and you start to explore the facilities. And this is where most people, 90% or more people in the world, fall apart. And then they wonder why their marriages fall apart or their relationships fall apart, or why they can't get a second date, or why they can't close it into a relationship, or extend it, maintain it, grow it over time. And here's why. Because most people focus on those first steps. Most people focus on just getting the guy or getting the girl, right? Or just getting the date, first of all. And then very few of them focus on what it takes to succeed in 10 years. Very few of them take the long-term perspective of what it's going to be like 10, 20 years from now. If you continue to live this way, what are the consequences 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now? They don't think long-term. They just think about the next date. And that will result in the hotel analogy, like you go up to your room and you start to see it's kind of crappy. Like there are cockroaches scurrying around. It hasn't been cleaned in years. There's like rats. There are all kinds of bed bugs. The place is just falling apart. They haven't renovated or replaced the furniture in 20 years. It's still the old box TVs, and so on. And then you're disgusted by the room itself, and then you explore the facilities, and the gym is moldy and dusty and sweat stains everywhere and stinks, and there's no ventilation, right? And you go to the pool and it's like got green slime on it, and just imagine, right, like a really shitty hotel. But you had no idea because the management decided to spend all of their budget on the marketing campaign to get you there. Like 80% of their budget was there. The 15% of their budget was on the exterior of the hotel, making it all pretty, and hiring the best bellboys and greeters and so on. And then the remaining 5% of the hotel budget was on the lobby experience and the check-in counter, right? And that's often how people approach learning about dating, mating, relationships, and marriage, and so on. They're just focused on the first step, actually, because the first step is always the hardest to take for anything, right? And that's sort of like if somebody wants to start working out, before they even work out, they like research all of the gyms in their area. They buy the most expensive workout clothing. They hire the most expensive trainer, and this is all before they've done a single rep, right? And then that's all set up, and then they're like, oh, I actually have to work out. And then after the first workout, they're like, I'm sweating, this sucks, and they quit. And that's how most people are with relationships. They're focusing on the wrong thing. They're like a hotel that sucks. And maybe more apt is the analogy between the inside of the hotel and your lifestyle. So what'll happen is a lot of people front on when they're first getting to know somebody. They've got they work on that first impression, and then that's how they get the relationships or the girlfriend or the boyfriend or the date, right? They tidy up their Tinder profile or whatever to get on the date. But then they also tidy up their first date appearance. They wear their best clothes, on their best behavior, and they're most witty, and so on, right? And then let's say they get into a relationship, like they actually trick the customer into getting into the hotel. Well, they're not going to have many repeat customers if their hotel's like shit. And here's something about the hotel industry that also applies to dating and mating. And here's one place where the analogy falls apart. One place, which is that you only need one customer. If you're a hotel, you only need one customer. So you should be super, like, let's say that one customer pays $1 million. Like, it's $1 million hotel. And it's sort of like more like real estate, actually. It's like selling the house, right? So, because you only need that one customer. And so a lot of it is about searching for that one customer, making sure that you turn off a lot of the customers that will not be right for you. And that's the right way to go. All the while improving your product as much as possible, right? And then finding that the one customer that would match that product, the special product that you've created. And that's a lot more like dating and mating. But there's a way to work the analogy in the hotel, because then it's very useful to think about it that way, which is the loyalty plan. So I'm a loyalty member. I'm on Starwood Platinum Ambassador Managed. That means like I've stayed over 100 nights a year in Starwood hotels. And then, of course, they've merged with Marriott, so I have that with Marriott. But I'm Diamond through status matching on pretty much every other hotel loyalty plan. And then using all those hotel points, I get all these business class flights, so I've experienced what it would have been like if I were actually loyal to any particular airline. I am loyal to some airlines because their mileage redemption is much better than others, so I keep funneling my points in particular airlines. But I'm not particularly loyal to. I'm not on the loyalty programs of any particular airlines. But I know what it's like when they think you're loyal and they treat you very differently. And that's a smart business move. The businesses that will fail are the ones that don't treat their loyal customers differently from a new customer. And here's why. Business will tell you that the cost of acquiring a new customer is very much higher than the cost of retaining a customer. So if you can get the customer to come back, most of the customer acquisition costs are upfront during that first transaction. If they love your product, the second or third or fourth transaction, or the second, third, or fourth time they come to your product, it's going to be a lot cheaper for you to get them to come back. Maybe it's just a little reminder, a little display ad on Facebook or something, or it could just be when they check out, or when they leave the restaurant, they just get a little discount voucher or something for the next time they come back, and that's enough incentive for them to come back. And then once they come back 4 or 5 times, they're kind of hooked, and you don't have to even market them anymore because you're going to be top of mind for that customer, and then it's zero acquisition cost for you. And that's why that's one of the many reasons why loyalty customers are so much more valuable than trying to get a brand new customer. And they should treat people differently. Now, if you gun for that first stay or the first transaction, and then you don't play for them to come back, then you're in a dying business model. I mean, the business model will die. Well, your business will die because the model sucks. And that's how most people approach dating and mating. They think about just that first date or their first month or that first week, and they don't think about the long-term plans. They don't think about the long term. How am I going to retain this person? How am I going to get them to come back? How am I going to continue to improve the product so that despite the competition, they'll still want to come back? So there are some hotels that are arrogant. They think, look, I want a customer who will be loyal, and I don't want to have to improve the product. I just want them to keep coming back. And that's a bad way to go. I've been loyal to some properties that just based on service were just so above and beyond, but because they didn't continue to improve the rest of their product, I gave them enough leeway, but they're still not going to, they're not going to add a lounge, they're not going to renovate this or that, they're not going to upgrade their TVs, and after some time, I'm just like, okay, well, I've got to move on because you're not improving yourself. And when it comes to marriage, obviously, you've got a different kind of contract with the customer. So there's a lot more, there's a penalty to leave, but then there's also, on both sides, there's a lot more leeway, right? But you can't expect the customer to be passionate about your product. If you lock them in with a contract, then they got no choice. But you shouldn't expect passion to be there. And if you want a passionate relationship with your customer, you've got to keep improving your product. And you've got to improve the product in ways that you're passionate about. Now, there was a guy who posted in the Man Up Facebook group, which you should join. Also, you should join the DTPHD Podcast group. That group's just getting going. But in the Man Up group, this is like 22,000 over dudes there. I just used the Singaporean way of saying it. It's 22,000 over dudes. Anyway, so there's somebody posted there and he said, I'm 35. I don't want to have to change myself. I already know who I am. I'm 35. And my problem is I can't find a woman, let alone a woman to date, but I just can't even find women in my life. So he's from a small town in the US, and he likes to hunt and fish and do manly things, and apparently there are no attractive females in on those particular activities. And various guys went in there and commented saying, hey, why don't you try yoga or cooking classes? Like, I'm not going to do yoga. That's just not me. I'm not going to do cooking classes. That's not me. I'm not going to do dance classes. That's not me. So basically he's saying, I'm not going to improve my product. I'm not going to try different things. I'm not open-minded. I'm not willing to improve. I'm 35. I'm done. And I'm like, yeah, you are done, dude. Even though you're 35, you've decided, 35 to me is young. I'm 40, I'm coming up to 42 this year. And I'm still improving myself constantly. On Sunday, another training for myself to try something new, and so on. Like, it just doesn't stop because growth is a really important part of human life. If you're not growing, you're dying, I believe. We're biological creatures after all. And the 35-year-old there, he's already started dying. And he's sort of like a hotel that maybe had a good 1 or 2 year run, I don't know, and then decided, they got its customer base. And then it decided never to renovate again, never to improve its offerings, never to add any new items to the menu, never to redo any of the furniture or to replace the televisions or to set up different high-tech stuff in the room, not to offer Wi-Fi. They're still doing plug-in broadband, which no one can use anymore. They just decided not to upgrade. And they're thinking, hey, look, we're going to be at the charming boutique hotel, which could work. If you have a very loyal clientele because you had a good 30-year run, and then you don't improve the product, you could still go coast for another 10 years or so just on that clientele that were loyal to you for that period of time. But it's not going to last in the long run if you don't refurbish. I mean, you think about it in terms of like they don't even get new towels or new bed sheets, and you got holes in them, they're fraying. That's what most people's lives are like. Let's say that they had a nice hotel. Like, let's even take this analogy differently. Let's say that they had a nice hotel all the way through. Like, somebody really took care of themselves. They took care of their exterior, but also their lifestyle. They had a thriving lifestyle. They had a lot of friends. They had a career. They were in a career that they really enjoyed. They had hobbies and interests outside of that, and let's say they went jogging, every day, or worked out every day, and they ate healthy, and they went out and traveled, and so on, right? And then they got married, and then the first couple of years while they were dating, everything was great, and then they moved in together, and then things started to get a little familiar. So to shock the system, they decided we'll get married. So then they get married, and then that's kind of fresh and novel for a while, and then after a year or so, the novelty of that wears off, and then they have kids. So then, they have kids, and then after 2 or 3 kids, that's a big deal, and then that changes the routine. So there's always like growth going on in the sense of like forced growth in their lives because they have these milestones. And sort of like a hotel that has to weather certain recessions, or they're going to go through the necessary hurdles of opening the gym finally, because a hotel will open before all the facilities are ready, right? So they finally get the gym open. Then they finally get the second restaurant open. Then they finally get the pool working and everything's great with no problems. And then they finally open the penthouse bar and whatever, right? They finally get everything open and everything's running, and then everything's smooth, and then they have no other plans, but everything's going according to plan and everything's fulfilled. So the hotel is now complete. And that's sort of like a married couple that has these kids and they're off to school and everything's complete. But now everything gets stale, and then their lifestyles have completely changed. And the guy stops seeing his guy friends, or they just do stupid shit because his guy friends are all the same as him. So they just sit around drinking beers, watching the game, and that's their life. And they're not growing very much. They're growing, I guess, in their company, just like climbing the ladder at a normal rate, I suppose, not an accelerated rate, not like at a totally game-changing rate. But then also the job's gotten a little stale, or they're in the routine, and then they stop working out. They stop they stop traveling. They stop stretching their boundaries. They stop stepping outside their comfort zone and improving themselves. That's like that guy who wrote in the Man Up group, and I think there are a lot of people like this, especially in smaller population places, because they're not challenged very much. And there's a lot of routine there, a lot of familiar places there. So when everything's familiar, it's hard for you to break out of your comfort zone on a regular basis mentally. And so there's a lot of people like this who just get into this routine. And they stop growing. They stop looking for opportunities to grow and develop and stretch their boundaries and step outside their comfort zone, try new things, learn new things, right? And it's like a hotel that once was good. Have you ever been to one of those? I've been to many of those that have once been good. And you could tell that they once must have been really great. But they haven't changed the color scheme or the rugs or the wallpaper or the design in decades. And they slip from, maybe they still list themselves as 5-star, but they're really like a good 3.5-star. And just to be competitive, they have to reduce their rates. And so now they end up becoming, at the 3.5-star price range. And it once was a 5-star hotel. That's what most people are like. I now have clientele that a lot of them are in their 40s and 50s. And that's what their life is like. And a lot of these dudes got pillaged by women in the U.S. at divorce courts or something. And even, so they're in a shitty hotel. They're running a shitty hotel, let's say. They are a shitty hotel. And on top of that, half of their furniture is gone. Half of their shit's taken away. And now they're trying to entice new customers into this hotel when half the shit is gone. And the exterior is run down. It's fat now. The exterior is fat, so to speak. It's old. It's balding, you know what I mean? And it hasn't learned about fashion in decades. So, you can imagine the most out-of-fashion exterior of a hotel. And it's asking me about its marketing campaign, right? Instead of let me improve the product, because they're old, they haven't improved the product in a decade or 2 decades. And they're instead of improving the product, because they're too afraid. They're too afraid of going to a yoga class now because they haven't done anything new in 10, 20 years, right? They haven't gone to a place where they don't know anyone and tried something completely out of their comfort zone where they look like kind of foolish because they're white belts, so to speak, at this thing. And, now because they're divorced and having to get, and they're lonely, divorced and lonely, and trying to get back into the single scene, the dating scene, they're trying to figure that out. And there's asking me about the marketing campaign instead of how can I improve this product? Because if they improve the product, they wouldn't need a marketing campaign. Then it's just a matter of taking a photo of the hotel and showing it off, like the features, and like wham, bam, like wham, bam. What do you think? Do you want to come or not? And that's it. And they'll attract, and if they think about like, what's my USP? What's my unique selling proposition? What's special about me? What do I like about me? And how do I put that out there? How am I different? What's different about me? And so many people are afraid of their USP. Or almost everyone has a USP, they just don't realize it, but they're so afraid of it. They try to just fit in. They try to be like every other hotel. And when you're like every other hotel, then you got to put a lot of marketing muscle into it because you got nothing special. You're just like a commodity. You're just like any other hotel down the block. So you got to compete on price. And that's how most attractive women do it. There's so many starving, there's so many homeless men, so to speak, that they'll pay for the hotel, but they don't realize that like the top spenders, the customers that they really want, the big loyalty spenders, they're very discerning. So they see like a cookie cutter boutique hotel like any other cookie cutter boutique, like they're all the same. But what's special about you? Often what people are missing is that they don't know what's special about them because they don't know what their true self is really like. They think they know, but they don't know. It's like that 35-year-old dude who doesn't want to grow and stretch himself anymore. He thinks he knows who he is. That's not his true self. That's just an adaptive false self that he's taken on to fit in, to stay in this comfort zone. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like fishing and hunting as being a part of yourself. It's an expression of a characteristic, a personality trait of yourself. But the USP, if you have a great hotel that's unique, right? That's maybe quirky in a certain way, or often when you don't think about whether you're unique or creative or original, and you just speak your mind, that's when you're the most attractive. When you're just yourself. That's also when you're going to turn off a bunch of people because they're not the one customer that you want. And the more you put yourself out there as closely as you can, speaking the truth, being yourself, putting yourself out there, the more you will attract that one customer or that small minority of customers that are perfect for you, right? And you charge a high price, by the way. It's a message to all women too, stop slutting yourselves out. If you charge a high price, you're going to attract a higher quality of customer, generally speaking, right? So, a lot of people can just start with the basics, just renovating the damn hotel, right? Forget the marketing campaign right now. If the product sucks, it doesn't matter how great your marketing campaign is, you're just going to die. You'll get people through a Groupon deal, you get them in the door, but then they'll never come back. And they're the wrong type of customer anyway. And so if you happen to actually get the right type of customer to walk in, and they see all these Groupon customers running around in there, they're just going to turn around and get out because they're like, this is not my place. This is not the type of place that's for me. I don't feel comfortable here. So whenever you attract, that's why I tell guys, stop fucking the sluts. Because when you do that, right, you're actually letting in the Groupon customers to your hotel and they're running crazy. You're actually letting them ruin your mindset in a way. And then the ultimate part of the analogy is that the interior of the hotel, the actual facilities, the various facilities, the room, the actual room, the bed, those are all like your mindset. What's going on inside you, inside your mind, your personality traits, your hobbies, your interests, and more importantly, your needs and your values and your self-awareness and so on, like your mindset, your thoughts and behavior. Those are what are going to drive real attractiveness, and that's actually the heart of the product. If you start from the inside out, then you can think about it in terms of the bed. That's where everything starts for a real hotel loyalty person. Like if you really think about a hotel, the most important parts of it are, if you have just a great exterior and a great restaurant, you're going to get lots of people just like visiting just to go to the restaurant and then they leave. They're not going to stay overnight. But if you have an amazing room, like a room where people are Instagramming or talking about it and it's the best sleep they've ever had, then you work out from there. You work outwards from there. And then there's some, eventually you get to the walls of the hotel, like the outside of the hotel. And it could be nothing. It could be just like a door with a doorman and very elegant red carpet. And that's it. It could be like a speakeasy hotel. That's fine. You're going to attract the right type of customer if you do it that way. If you do it the opposite way, you have an amazing exterior, all flashy and glitzy and all that. But then The actual room itself sucks, like some W's, by the way, and that once were great, the old W's. You're just going to have people coming in and trashing that room as a party house. I remember, I'll end with this analogy. We got suckered in with a great marketing campaign to a particular hotel. It wasn't me, by the way, it was my associate. I've wisened up, as has he after this experience. But he booked this particular villa, and it wasn't really expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. And the marketing campaign was amazing. It was a video with drone. It was like a party kind of house, but it looked really luxurious. 5 bedrooms, multiple rooftop cabanas, multiple swimming pools on multiple levels, movie room, workout room, all of this inside this vacation home, right? So the marketing materials looked great. The price looked like a steal. We booked it. We get there, and I swear the place was falling apart. Like there were, it's just so hard to explain. It's like holes in the floor. There was a swimming pool that was drained, so it was literally just a pit in the ground made of cement next to one of the key master bedrooms. So it was like very unsexy. There was bugs everywhere. There were broken windows. Can you imagine, like, you try to sell it like a 6-star luxury villa and it turns out there's like broken window panes. There are huge spiders and spider webs. This is in the jungles, right? Man, it was just like, this should not even be, like the government should come in and shut this place down. It should not be able to take customers. But this is not, there's a lot of corruption in this particular country, so that wasn't going to happen. But anyway, the owner showed us around the sort of decent parts, and he left us for those 2 nights to discover the really nasty parts. And we took it out on a review, but there wasn't that much recourse, unfortunately, for us. But that's like most people. They sucker you in with a marketing campaign, right? Like most men and women on dating and mating. They think about that marketing campaign. And it turns out all of the photos from the marketing, all of the videos from the marketing were taken when they opened, like 3 years ago. And in that time, they just had because of the marketing campaign, they attracted a lot of party people. And they accepted all these party people who completely trashed the place. And it got to the point where there was a pizza oven, which looked really cool. Like you could make your own pizzas there. And it came with a full staff. Kitchen staff, cleaning staff, etc. And when we met them, they had just given up. They'd given up. Like there was a security staff that didn't bother to stick around after night, so they were completely useless. And they shut down that pizza thing because somebody came back at 3 a.m., some group of party people, and they tried to make a pizza and somebody burned his eyebrows and whatever. And so they nope, this is awful. They got rid of pretty much all of the fun facilities because some drunk party person destroyed it or got hurt in it. And they decided instead of improving or renovating, they'll just leave it and just shut it off. So they drained the pool because it was too deep and drunk people got almost drowned or whatever. And so they just drained the damn thing, whatever, And they eventually just I'm going to take that away, I'm going to take that away, I'm going to take that away. And it reminded me, in terms of the analogy, like a bitter, shriveled up woman in her let's say late 40s, 50s, who has basically stopped having sex with her husband. And it's just a shrill woman who snaps at her kids, hates her life, hates the job she's in. And 20 years ago, she was at the prime of her life, partying it up and loving it. But now she's just bitter. And there are men like that. And of course, there are men like that, and they would cause their partner to become bitter as well. And so the energy will just reflect. So I see plenty of guys who are burnt out, who don't want to improve, don't want to grow. They're so angry. In fact, there are whole movements of men on the internet so angry about women and the American court system, about how they got half their shit taken away, and they got cheated on. And in the meantime, they haven't realized that they're like that disgusting villa that once was good, but instead of renovating and improving, they just took shit away. They drained the pool. They shut down a whole section of the house. It's like a woman who, after a while, takes it out on her husband, hates her life and takes it out on her husband. We're not going to have sex. Shrivels up, shuts down, locks up, or drains a whole pool, so to speak. And then, they get the divorce, and now they have to go and find new customers. And every customer they sucker in with marketing. Maybe, I don't know, at that point, how good your marketing can be, but it's basically a lie, right? And they get in there, and the customer's disgusted, and they don't want to have a second date. They cut short the first date, or whatever, right? And that's the situation of a lot of bitter, older people coming out of a bad relationship, a long relationship, where they let themselves go. And if you think about yourself as so I recommend that everybody go to, get onto a loyalty plan. You can do a status match. What do they call those? Status challenge. And, instead of taking 50 nights to get to platinum, you can just do it in 21 nights. If you do it in a concentrated period of time, just Google it and you'll find it. And get on these things so you can explore some of these wonderful properties and get to know the difference between a great property and a bad property. And you'll start to see what it takes. It's hard. It's a low margin business, hotels and travel and business planes. And they got to work really hard. They always have to improve that product. And if their employees, if the company's mindset or motto wasn't about delivering a great experience, and it was like a chore to renovate. Like for most people, going to the gym or trying something new is like a chore. It sucks. And with that attitude, you're never going to improve. You're like a hotel manager who grumbles every time he has to renovate or try something new or improve, versus somebody who's passionate about, I've got this new idea, or I experienced this new thing at this other property, and I think we can improve on it and do it even better at our property. And he's really passionate about it. And he greets, a hotel manager, a general manager, or like a senior person in the hotel who greets his guests at the door, as some of them do. And that level of passion is what draws customers in. And they're even willing to overlook a lot of other things, facilities and so on, at the hotel if the service is amazing. And that's like, the service is like the heart, the blood of the hotel. That's like the personality of the person. You got to work on that personality first and foremost. This means all of your open-mindedness, your mindset, your adventurousness, how laid back you are, how passionate you are, how assertive you are, how confident you are. All of these things they're like the service in the hotel. And that's what really runs it. If you have some really great service, you can actually, it can turn a mediocre facility into an extraordinary one. So I'll leave you on that one. If your exterior is fat and falling apart and so on, and it's an old property, don't despair, because you can turn it into a charming, rustic. There are whole brands built on this, by the way. There's like the Tribute portfolio and collection. There's design hotels. There are a lot of these great hotel brands. Luxury Collection is another one that takes really beautiful old properties and makes the interior high tech and clean and beautiful, but the exterior they keep the same. So you can be old and overweight a bit, and have a great service, great interior, great mindset, and do very, very well. So you are a hotel. Ironic that I'm in a really great property here. Saying that, actually it's not ironic at all. It was completely intentional. So I'm going to have an amazing breakfast. And here's another thing for all you hoteliers out there. I really appreciate it when you have a separate menu in addition to the buffet, so that we can order some made-to-order things right off the menu. That's an amazing thing. Just a little suggestion. Instead of having stations, well, you should have the stations, but you should also let us order our Eggs Benedict on top of the buffet. You can tell I'm a little spoiled, but I'm not just a little spoiled. I got to watch it, though. So, the occasional Airbnb without any service, more or less, and those are good to keep you honest. But also, Airbnb gets you access to some really unique places, too, so that's really cool. I'm really appreciative of Airbnb when it comes to booking villas, though. Okay, and now I'm rambling, because I can go on this subject for hours. And I do give insider tips in the course Lifestyle Mastery. If you're interested in that, check that out. But in the meantime, join the DTPHD Facebook group. I'm going to start doing live shows there. That's the easiest way to interact with me personally, and it's a very good community in there. And there are guys following the reading challenge also, guys and girls, women, men, following the reading challenge in the group. And I hope to see you inside the DTPHD Facebook group. Click the link below this video or audio, and join the group. I'll see you inside the group. David Tian, signing out.
Hey, it's David again.
Before you go, a couple last things. First, all the show notes and links to resources can be found at davidtianphd.com/DTPHD Podcast. Or you can just go to davidtianphd.com and find it through the top navigation menu. Second, if you'd like to interact with me or other like-minded fans of the podcast, then join our private DTPHD Podcast Facebook group. We've got an awesome community of intelligent, wise individuals from literally all around the world. You can send a join request to the group using the link you'll find in the show notes of every podcast at davidtianphd.com/DTPHD Podcast. Click the link, log into your Facebook, and then click to join. We approve join requests every day. So go to davidtianphd.com and click the link to join. See you inside our group.